Hi there, this is Simon with Wild Earth Children. We've put together a short video to show you the 7 simplest things you can do to set yourself up for success with your bow drill fire by friction making. Now in reality, there's a little more than 7 things we have to remember, but these are the simplest things that will lead you to the greatest success. Let's find out what they are. Okay, the first one relates to your spindle. This is how a spindle should not look. We want the spindle to be the same thickness all the way up and down. You can see that this one tapers quite severely towards the top. And this creates issues when we start bowing. If I put this in the bow, you'll be able to see that when I stay at the bottom, I'm okay, I can still continue to spin the spindle. But as I work to the top of the bow, all of a sudden now I'm getting no movement. Come down, I'm okay. You need that spindle to be turning with every single movement back and forth of the bow. And having a parallel spindle with parallel sides is going to be the first step in that. Okay, number 2 also has to do with your kit, and this is so simple, but it's one probably that I see go wrong the most with people. Your board, when it sits on the ground, should be flat. What happens with a lot of times is the board can just tilt 10-15 degrees one way or the other, and what this does is, as the spindle sits in there, it makes this, if I tip it towards me, the spindle will start travelling off this side. Tip it away from me, and the spindle will start moving this way. You want to go straight down into that board. If your spindle continues to pop out all the time, you should take a look at how flat your board is. Okay, number 3, we've got our spindle with parallel sides. I've got my board nice and flat on the ground. I've taken a few seconds just to check those parts. The next one has to do with your bow. And you need the correct tension on your bow. Otherwise you could be doing a lot of work for no return, or you could be making life so difficult for yourself that you can't make it to the end. This one, when I put my spindle in my bow, here, this is not tight enough. See the way it almost just falls to the floor. This is not tight enough. And what's going to happen is, when I start bowing, I get absolutely no movement, or occasionally I get movement. You can listen to the sound that the spindle's making to help you with this one. The correct tension on the bow, switch to the one I'm actually going to use, should be when you let go, the spindle wants to do a few somersaults before hitting the ground. Once more, a few somersaults before hitting the ground. So number 3, make sure you have the correct tension on your bow around the spindle. Okay, I've got my good spindle, I've got my board flat on the ground, I have the correct tension on the bow. The next one is, when you start bowing, you do not need to push down super hard with all your might, especially if you're an adult. If the dust is coming out nice and dark, you do not need to push down any harder. Adults especially have a tendency to think, man, if only I pushed a little harder, I'd be sure to get fire. But that isn't always the case. You need to look at the dust and think about what it's telling you. If it's coming out nice and dark, you're probably good to go, and things need to get changed in other areas, not how hard you're pushing down. Okay, our next point is how you bow. And for this one is really simple. However long your bow is, you should use the whole of it all the way backwards and forwards. So here I'm going almost as far as I can to either end of the bow, instead of using little tiny strokes, or even just using half of the bow. The difference in the smoke is quite remarkable as soon as I start using that full length of what I've cut from nature. Okay, our next point is that you do not have to go crazy to make a fire. Smoothness and gracefulness are going to beat brute strength and crazy as fast as you can. What has a tendency to happen if we go super crazy is my whole body starts moving, and very soon we'll see wobbles and a spindle flying out. Now you might get away with that on one or two occasions, but when you really need to make fire, or we need technique to be good. So what we're looking for is you don't have to go crazy fast. We're just looking for smooth bowing, everything stable. Hopefully the only thing that is moving is my right arm. And you can see that I'm using a lot less energy now, and I'm actually getting better results. So you do not need to go crazy. Okay, so our last point, after you put all the other ones together, is simply to say thank you. This might seem almost trivial, but I can assure you it's one of the largest factors in being successful at making fire by friction. You can say thank you in whatever way feels right for you. Out loud, in your heart, maybe with something you do, but just honouring that these pieces of wood were alive, and honouring that fire is a gift that's given to us, I see make a big difference in the way that people make fire. So our last point is simply to say thank you. Now, like we said at the start of the video, there's obviously more things to consider than just 7 simple aspects. But if you get these 7 things right, the other things have a tendency just to fall into place almost. Hopefully you follow these and you're going to have good success with making your fires. So however you make your fires, just please be safe with them. Check out our website for more details, and happy fire making.